So why do you want to disclose things about your home? Well, the answer: sellers are legally obligated to disclose all known material facts about the property to the buyer. And, well, one of the most common causes for sellers being sued is for either not disclosing material fact or misrepresenting material facts. And we don't want to see the buyer back with his attorney in tow.
I'll be back.
The good news is that the TDS and the SPQ are designed to help the seller disclose all material facts about the property by asking actually helpful questions that disclose issues pertaining to their property. So while it seems tedious for sellers to complete the disclosures, the forms actually cover a number of issues that will help the seller disclose material facts that can be important for the buyer to be aware of. And the basic rule of thumb is, when in doubt, disclose, disclose, disclose. After the initial paperwork is signed, we send out the disclosure forms for the seller to begin working on. Ideally, we like to have a completed copy of the disclosures prior to activating the listing on the MLS. The benefit of doing this is because agents and buyers will often ask about the age of the roof, condition of the property, or even permit questions pertaining to the property that can actually often be answered by the seller disclosures. Secondly, we have, as a part of California law, to provide to the buyer within 7 days of acceptance of the offer. And if this is delayed, then it'll actually add to how long the length of time a buyer has for their inspection period lasts. So in this video, I'm going to guide you through how to complete these forms, how to answer questions when you don't know the answer, and provide you with 5 tips towards the end of the video. Hi, I'm Harold with Remax Gold Coast Realty, and if you want to stay up to date on the Ventura real estate market, then you should hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell icon so that you're the first to know when I have new videos coming out and are posted. The 2 disclosure forms that the seller needs to complete are the Seller Property Questionnaire, which is referred to as the SPQ, and the Transfer Disclosure Statement, which is commonly referred to as the TDS. Both the TDS and the SPQ have some overlap in the questions that are asked. The TDS is really more a questionnaire about the technical features and items included in the sale of the property. For instance, it'll ask about what items the property has that are included in the sale, such as heating systems, air conditioning unit, appliances, sewer connections, septic systems, garages, pools, etc. It will also ask you if you know about environmental hazards, repairs, alterations that may have been made to the property. While the SPQ digs a little deeper on a number of subjects that the TDS just touches on. So with that, let's discuss the Transfer Disclosure Statement, also called the TDS. On the first page of the form, you'll answer whether you're living in the property or not living in the property. Then you're going to proceed down to the first section, Section A on the first page, where you'll indicate what features or items the property has. Items such as whether there's an oven, a dishwasher, public sewer, septic system, heating units, and whether it's wall furnaces. Now, if you're in an HOA and that has a pool and a spa, you actually won't want to check that off on the boxes because that's actually part of the common areas, and that will get addressed more in the SPQ. You would only check this box in an HOA if you had your own personal pool and spa on your specific property. Otherwise, you'll need to elaborate if any of the items or features is not in operating condition on that first page. Now, where sellers get stuck is not knowing the answer, especially if they're not living in the property. So there is actually a helpful framework which applies to answering the questions that a seller comes across. And the way you answer each question is that if you are aware that something you know is true, then you put yes. If you don't know, then you put no. That's it. It's really that simple. to answering all the questions. You just have to ask yourself, do you know if the item or issue is present? If so, then answer yes. If not, then answer no. And, the reason is a seller would answer no is because a seller can't disclose what they don't know. I hope that helps. So, you'll apply this same framework when answering the rest of the questions on page 2 of the disclosures. Anytime you answer yes in this section, you'll need to provide a brief explanation at the bottom where it allots for room to explain. So if you select yes to features shared in common, such as walls and fences, then you'll need to explain your fence is shared with adjoining landowners. And if you're in an HOA, then you'll have to probably check off items 12 through 14 that'll likely apply. Side note, you'll notice at the bottom of the TDS, it states that the seller will have operating smoke detectors and water heater bracing installed per the health and safety code. So you want to have this done as well as the carbon monoxide detectors on each floor of the property. Now, let's discuss the SPQ form. The form has a helpful note to the seller at the beginning of the form. It states that the purpose of the SPQ is to inform the buyer about known material or significant items affecting the value or desirability of the property and really help eliminate any misunderstandings about the condition of the property. So this form goes a bit deeper on helping the seller disclose information about the property's condition that could affect the buyer's decision to buy. And honestly, it's better for the buyer to back out early on or even prior to writing an offer than have to take the home off the market for the next 10 days and then have the buyer back out. That is frustrating. Another helpful note is you'll notice that all of the questions in the SPQ start each question by beginning with, "Are you the seller aware of?" and then ask the question. A yes answer to the question is appropriate no matter how long ago the item being asked about happened. Here again, you'll need to elaborate on any yes answers in the section below the questions being asked. The SPQ covers 14 different subjects. The questions cover subjects as documents and reports, repairs and alterations, structural systems and appliances, mold and water related issues, pets, animals, and pests, condo or common interest developments, and a few more. Again, these will be all yes or no questions. And I know that completing these forms can be a bit daunting task, but number one, it's required. And number two, critical not only for the buyers to understand the history of your property, but also for me and as an agent to help understand and know all the pertinent facts as well. And as promised, here are 5 tips to filling out the SPQ and TDS. Number one, take your time. We give the seller disclosures in advance of putting the home on the market, so you can give yourself some time to think about the questions. And what you don't want is to be rushing to fill out the disclosures while you're also having the added stress of negotiating an offer or finding another home to purchase. The completed disclosures are actually due within 7 days of a contract being accepted, and the buyer has another 5 days after that to review the disclosures. So if the buyers have 10-day inspection and we can't provide the disclosures until, let's say, day 10, well, it means now the buyer will have 15 days in which to remove the inspection contingency, which, as a seller, you now have extended the buyer's timeline before having to remove the contingencies, which, again, can be frustrating. Number 2 tip. Be thoughtful. Think about what you would want to know if you were buying the property today. So walk through the house and think about the repairs or changes you've done to the house. If you see you have a ceiling stain or floor stain, mention it as how it got there. What we don't want to have or avoid is the buyer discovering a ceiling or attic stain during the home inspection due to a roof leak while you're actually living in the house. And your reply to their finding is that, "Oh yeah, that was from a roof leak, but we fixed it." Unfortunately, the buyer and their agent go into the mental dark hole of, "Great, What else did you forget to disclose? This type of buyer hallucination, whether justified or not, can kill the deal. So be thoughtful. Number 3, yes/no questions. On yes/no questions, the answer is no, always no, unless you can affirmatively say yes about an item. And all yes answers, well, they'll require an explanation below. Number 4, you are forgiven for whatever you confess. This goes back to the statement, disclose, disclose, disclose. When you disclose a material fact, you actually shift the responsibility from you to the buyer. Number 5, fill it out yourself. The realtor can't legally fill it out for you. It's your legal obligation to fill it out to the best of your abilities. Now, if you follow all these tips I've mentioned, you should feel much more confident in how to answer the questions on both disclosures. Now, if you want to be ready to pass your home inspection, I suggest you watch How to Prepare for a Home Inspection next.